She was left all alone at the airport, then ended up on a private jet with a lonely billionaire. The departure board at JFK International Airport blurred through Maya's tears as she stared at it, her wedding dress still pristine white beneath her coat. 3 hours. She'd been standing in the same spot for 3 hours, waiting for a groom who would never come. Her phone buzzed again with another message from her sister. "Maya, where are you? The church is full. Everyone's waiting." She couldn't bring herself to reply. How do you tell 200 guests that the man who promised to love you forever had just texted you from the airport parking lot saying he couldn't go through with it? That he was sorry, but he'd fallen in love with someone else? Before we continue this incredible story, I want to know, where are you watching from today? Drop your country or city in the comments below. I love seeing our amazing community from all around the world. And if you're already hooked on Maya's story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss another emotional journey like this one. Maya's designer heels clicked against the polished floor as she finally moved, dragging her small suitcase behind her. The honeymoon luggage. Paradise in Bora Bora, now just another broken promise. She found herself at the airline counter, her voice barely a whisper. "I need to cancel a reservation. 2 tickets to Tahiti." The agent's eyes widened slightly, taking in Maya's appearance. The elaborate updo now slightly disheveled, the makeup that had taken 2 hours to perfect now streaked with tears, the unmistakable outline of a wedding dress beneath her coat. "I'm so sorry, ma'am, but these tickets are non-refundable. The flight leaves in 2 hours. "I don't care about the money," Maya interrupted, her voice cracking. "Just cancel them, please." As the agent typed, Maya became aware of someone standing nearby, not crowding her space, but close enough that she could smell expensive cologne and feel the presence of someone tall. She glanced sideways and saw a man in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit, his dark hair slightly tousled as if he'd been running his hands through it. He wasn't looking at her directly, but she could tell he was aware of her distress. "Ma'am?" The agent's voice brought her back. "The cancellation is complete. Is there anything else?" Maya shook her head, stepping away from the counter. The weight of what had just happened crashed over her anew. She was supposed to be Mrs. David Chen right now. She was supposed to be dancing at her reception, cutting cake, starting her life as a married woman. Instead, she was alone in an airport in her wedding dress, her entire future evaporated like morning mist. She found an empty gate area and collapsed into a chair, not caring that people were staring. Let them stare. Let them see what abandonment looked like. Her phone rang, her mother this time. She declined the call and turned off her phone entirely. "Excuse me." The voice was deep, refined, with a slight British accent. Maya looked up to find the man from the airline counter standing a respectful distance away. Up close, she could see he had striking green eyes and a face that belonged on magazine covers, though there was a weariness in his expression that matched her own. "I'm sorry to intrude," he continued, "but I couldn't help overhearing. You've had a difficult day." Maya laughed bitterly. "That's one way to put it." "I have a proposition," he said, surprising her. "My name is Alexander Winters. I own a jet that's leaving for London in an hour. I have an extra seat and it seems you might benefit from being anywhere but here right now." Maya stared at him. "You're offering a complete stranger a ride on your private jet?" "I'm offering someone in pain a chance to escape," he corrected gently. "No strings attached. My pilot can arrange for you to return whenever you'd like. Consider it an act of kindness from one human being to another." "Why would you do that?" Alexander was quiet for a moment, his gaze distant. "Because I know what it's like to have your world fall apart in an instant. Because sometimes the kindness of a stranger is the only thing that makes it bearable." Maya studied him more carefully. Despite his polished appearance, she noticed the shadows under his eyes, the way his shoulders carried invisible weight. This wasn't just wealth talking. This was someone who understood pain. "I don't even have clothes," she said weakly. "Just honeymoon outfits." "London has shops," he replied with a small smile. "Rather good ones, actually." It was insane, completely, utterly insane. She didn't know this man. She should be going home, facing the music, dealing with the aftermath of her cancelled wedding. But the thought of walking into that empty apartment, of facing all those sympathy calls and pitying looks. "Okay," she heard herself saying. "Yes, thank you." Alexander nodded and pulled out his phone. "James?" "Yes, we'll have a guest joining us. Please prepare the second cabin." He looked at Maya. "Do you have any luggage besides the carry-on?" "One suitcase, but it's—" "James will handle it. What's your name?" "Maya. Maya Rodriguez." "Well, Maya Rodriguez, let's get you out of here." The walk to the private terminal was surreal. Alexander handled everything with quiet efficiency, his presence commanding without being overbearing. Maya found herself in a luxurious lounge, accepting a glass of water from an attendant who didn't bat an eye at her appearance. "You can use the powder room if you'd like to freshen up before we board," Alexander suggested gently. "We have about 20 minutes. In the pristine bathroom, Maya stared at her reflection. Her wedding makeup was ruined, her carefully styled hair falling out of its pins. She looked like exactly what she was, an abandoned bride. With shaking hands, she splashed water on her face and tried to repair some of the damage. She couldn't bring herself to take off the dress. Not yet. It felt like admitting defeat. When she emerged, Alexander was standing by the window, staring out at the planes on the tarmac. There was something lonely about his silhouette, something that made Maya realize she wasn't the only one running from something. "Ready?" he asked without turning around. "As ready as someone can be to fly to London with a complete stranger," Maya replied, attempting lightness. He turned then, and she caught a glimpse of a genuine smile. "When you put it that way, it does sound rather mad, doesn't it?" "Completely mad," she agreed. "But then again, I'm standing in an airport in a wedding dress after being jilted at the altar, so clearly rational decision-making isn't my strong suit today." The jet was beyond anything Maya had ever seen. Cream leather seats that looked more like living room furniture, polished wood surfaces, fresh flowers in crystal vases. It was a flying palace, but somehow it still felt empty, as if all the luxury couldn't fill whatever void existed here. Alexander showed her to a seat across from his, separated by a small table. "The flight is about 7 hours. There's a bedroom in the back if you'd prefer to rest. The galley is fully stocked, and Patricia, our flight attendant, can prepare anything you'd like." "You do this often?" Maya asked as she buckled in. "Rescue stranded women from airports?" "No," he said simply. "You're the first." As the jet taxied to the runway, Maya felt the surreal nature of the situation wash over her. This morning she'd woken up thinking it would be the happiest day of her life. Now she was on a private jet to London with a billionaire stranger, still wearing her wedding dress. Maya understood. There was a strange intimacy in shared sorrow, a connection that went deeper than small talk or pleasantries. Two broken people, 30,000 feet above the ocean, finding solace in each other's company. "Tell me about your work," she said, wanting to give him a break from the heavy topics. His face lit up slightly. "I develop sustainable technology, solar panels that work in low light, water purification systems for developing nations. Emma used to joke that I was trying to save the world one invention at a time." "Are you?" "Maybe. Or maybe I'm just trying to build something good enough to balance out all the pain in the world. Futile, probably." "Not futile," Maya said firmly. "Necessary. The world needs people who try to make it better, even if it seems impossible." They talked about her work then. She was a pediatric nurse at Mount Sinai, working with premature babies. She told him about the tiny fighters in the NICU, about holding vigil with terrified parents, about the joy of watching a baby who wasn't supposed to survive go home healthy. "You save lives," Alexander said with genuine admiration. "Sometimes. Sometimes I just hold them while they slip away. But even that's a privilege, being present for someone's first breath or last breath. It's sacred." "Is that what you were giving up? For David?" Maya nodded slowly. "He wanted me to quit after the wedding, said his salary was enough that I should focus on making a home. I told myself it was romantic, him wanting to take care of me. Now I realize it was about control." Another gift of his leaving, Alexander observed. You get to keep doing what you love. As the flight progressed, Maya found herself relaxing in a way she hadn't expected. Maybe it was the altitude, or the wine, or the strange comfort of talking to someone with no expectations or history. She told Alexander things she'd never told anyone, about her father's death when she was 12, about feeling like she had to be perfect to make up for the loss, about choosing safe, stable David because he seemed like he'd never leave. But he did leave, she said wonderingly. The safe choice left just as easily as anyone else might have. Safety is an illusion, Alexander agreed. Emma was the biggest risk I ever took. Loving her, marrying her, planning a future together. It was terrifying because I knew how much it would hurt to lose her. And then I did lose her, and it hurt even more than I'd imagined. But I still wouldn't trade a single day. No regrets. Thousands of regrets. I regret every business trip that took me away from her. Every late night at the office. Every moment I chose work over her. But I don't regret loving her. That's the paradox of loss. The pain proves the love was real. The cabin lights had been dimmed, creating an intimate cocoon around them. Maya realized she'd stopped noticing the wedding dress, stopped feeling the weight of abandonment. In this strange bubble above the earth, she felt more like herself than she had in months. "What will you do in London?" Alexander asked. "I have no idea," Maya admitted. "I don't know anyone there. I don't even have proper clothes. This is completely insane. The best things usually are. I have a flat in Notting Hill that's sitting empty. You're welcome to use it for as long as you need. No strings," he added quickly, seeing her expression. "I stay at my house in Hampstead. The flat was Emma's art studio. I can't bring myself to sell it, but I also can't bear to see it empty." "I couldn't." "You'd be doing me a favor," he interrupted gently. Giving the space life again, Emma would have liked that. She always said empty rooms were tragic. Maya felt tears threaten again, but for different reasons now. "Why are you being so kind to me?" Alexander looked at her directly then, his green eyes intense in the dim light. "Because when Emma died, I stood in an airport much like you did today. Lost, broken, not knowing how to take the next breath. An elderly woman saw me standing there and bought me coffee, sat with me for 3 hours while I fell apart. She didn't try to fix anything or offer platitudes. She just witnessed my pain, made me feel less alone. I've never forgotten that kindness." "What was her name?" "Margaret. She was flying to see her new grandson. She showed me pictures, told me stories about her late husband, reminded me that life goes on even when we think it can't. She saved me that day, though she probably never knew it. And now you're paying it forward." "Trying to, though I suspect you're saving me as much as I'm helping you. This is the first real conversation I've had in months, the first time I've talked about Emma without feeling like I'm drowning." They were quiet for a while, comfortable in the silence. Maya found herself studying Alexander's profile as he gazed out the window. He was handsome in a classical way, but it was the sadness that made him beautiful. The way he carried his grief with dignity, the way he could still offer kindness despite his own pain. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said. "More personal than everything we've already discussed?" he asked with a small smile. Has there been anyone since Emma?" His face closed off slightly. "No, I can't imagine it. People tell me I should try, that Emma would want me to be happy. But how do you open your heart again when you know how much it can hurt? How do you trust in forever when you've seen how quickly it can end?" "Maybe you don't," Maya said thoughtfully. "Maybe you just trust in today, in moments, in connection without promises. Is that what you'll do after David?" "I don't know. Right now I can't imagine ever trusting anyone again. But then, 6 hours ago, I couldn't imagine being on a plane to London with a stranger, and yet here I am. Maybe the heart is more resilient than we think." "Or more foolish," Alexander said, but there was warmth in his voice. Patricia appeared to tell them they were beginning their descent into London. The night had passed without Maya realizing it, lost in conversation and connection. As the lights of the city appeared below them, she felt a flutter of nervousness. "Second thoughts?" Alexander asked, noticing her expression. Third and fourth thoughts, Maya admitted, but no regrets. Is that strange? Not at all. Regret requires wishing things were different. Sometimes different is exactly what we need. As they prepared to land, Alexander handed her a business card. My personal number is on the back. London can be overwhelming, especially when you're processing something like this. If you need anything, a friend, a tour guide, someone to drink wine with while you curse David's name, please call. Won't that complicate things? You've already done so much. Complication isn't always bad, he said. Emma taught me that. She complicated my perfectly ordered life in the best possible way. The landing was smooth, and soon they were in a private terminal, their passports checked by officials who came to them. Maya realized she was still wearing her wedding dress, now wrinkled from the long flight. The absurdity of it hit her and she started to laugh. "I'm about to enter a foreign country in a wedding dress," she gasped between giggles. "This is my life now. This is actually happening." Alexander smiled and it transformed his face. "If it helps, you're the most elegant jilted bride I've ever seen." "How many jilted brides do you know?" "Just the one, but she's quite extraordinary." A car was waiting for them on the tarmac, a sleek black Range Rover with a driver who didn't even blink at Maya's attire. London was just waking up, the streets still quiet in the early morning light. "The flat first," Alexander asked. "You must be exhausted." "I should be," Maya said, "but I feel strangely energized, like I've been sleepwalking for months and suddenly I'm awake." "I know that feeling," Alexander said softly. Emma used to call it life insisting on itself. Even in grief, even in pain, sometimes life just breaks through. The flat in Notting Hill was perfect, a converted Victorian with high ceilings and large windows that flooded the space with light. True to his word, it had been an art studio. Canvases were still stacked against the walls, and the smell of oil paint lingered faintly in the air. "I haven't been here since—" Alexander trailed off, standing in the doorway as if unable to cross the threshold. Maya took his hand without thinking, squeezing gently. "Would you like me to go in first?" He looked at their joined hands with surprise, then up at her face. "Would you mind?" She stepped into the flat, still holding his hand, drawing him in with her. The space was beautiful but frozen in time, brushes still in jars, a palette with dried paint, a canvas on an easel showing the beginning of a landscape. She was talented, Maya said, moving closer to examine the paintings. "She was everything," Alexander corrected, his voice thick. "Thank you for making me come in. I've been paying for the place but couldn't face it." "Maybe that's why you invited me," Maya suggested gently. "Not just to help me run away, but to help you come back." He considered this. "Perhaps you're right. Emma always said I was terrible at asking for help." They explored the flat together. A full kitchen, a bedroom with a view of the garden, a bathroom with a clawfoot tub. It was perfect for someone starting over, which Maya supposed she was. "There's a Tesco around the corner for groceries," Alexander said, back in practical mode, "and several good restaurants nearby. The tube station is a 5-minute walk." "Alexander," Maya interrupted, "thank you. For all of this, for seeing a broken stranger and choosing kindness, for sharing your story, for giving me a place to figure out what comes next." "What does come next?" he asked. "For you? I don't know," she admitted. "But for the first time, that doesn't terrify me. Maybe I'll explore London. Maybe I'll write in one of those cafes I've read about. Maybe I'll finally start that novel I've been putting off because David thought it was impractical. Maybe I'll just be without planning or controlling or trying to be perfect. That sounds like freedom." "It does, doesn't it?" She smiled. "What about you? What comes next for Alexander Winters?" He looked around the flat, at Emma's paintings, at Maya in her wrinkled wedding dress. "Maybe it's time I stopped running. Maybe it's time to feel it all instead of numbing it with work and distance." "That sounds terrifying." "It does, doesn't it?" he echoed with a small smile. They stood there for a moment, two damaged souls in a space full of memory and possibility. Then Alexander cleared his throat. "I should go. Let you settle in. Get some rest." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Maya, would you like to have dinner tomorrow? Or today, I suppose, since it's already morning, just as friends. I could show you around the city, help you find some clothes that aren't wedding dresses." "I'd like that," Maya said, meaning it, "but only if you let me buy you dinner. It's the least I can do after the plane and the flat and the kindness." "Deal," he said. "I'll pick you up at 7. 7 it is." After he left, Maya stood in the middle of the flat, trying to process the last 12 hours. She'd started the day as a bride-to-be and ended it as a runaway in London. She should feel lost, terrified, heartbroken. And she did feel those things, but underneath was something else. Hope, maybe. Or just the recognition that life could surprise you, that strangers could be kind, that endings could also be beginnings. She finally took off the wedding dress, hanging it carefully in the closet. Maybe she'd burn it later or donate it, or keep it as a reminder of the day her life veered off course in the best possible way. She ran a bath in the clawfoot tub, sinking into water hot enough to wash away the old Maya, the one who played it safe and still got hurt. As she soaked, she thought about Alexander, about the pain in his eyes and the kindness in his actions, about how grief had made him more human, not less, about how he'd offered her sanctuary without asking for anything in return. She'd been prepared for David to be her happily ever after, but maybe happily ever after was a myth. Maybe there was just happy for now, connection for today, kindness for this moment. Her phone, which she'd turned back on, buzzed with messages, dozens of them, from her mother, her sister, her friends, even one from David, full of apologies and explanations she didn't want to read. She deleted it without opening it fully. Then she sent a single message to her sister. "I'm safe. I'm in London. I'll explain later. Tell everyone the wedding is off and I'm taking some time. I love you." Then she turned the phone off again. The rest could wait. She must have dozed in the tub because she woke to the sound of the doorbell. Wrapping herself in a robe she found hanging on the door. Emma's robe, probably, and wasn't that strange. She padded to the intercom. "Delivery for Ms. Rodriguez," a cheerful voice said. "I didn't order anything." "The gentleman said you'd say that. He also said to tell you that even runaway brides need proper clothes." Curious, Maya buzzed the delivery person in. They handed her several shopping bags from Harrods and a note in elegant handwriting. "Maya, I hope you don't find this presumptuous, but I thought you might need some basics before our shopping trip. Emma always said there was nothing a good outfit couldn't improve. The sizes are guesses, so please don't be offended if I got it wrong. Ace." Inside the bags were beautiful basics, soft cashmere sweaters, well-cut trousers, a perfect little black dress, comfortable flats and one pair of stunning heels, undergarments in neutral colors, and a coat suitable for London weather. Everything was elegant but understated, expensive but not showy. He'd even included toiletries and makeup. Maya found herself crying again, but these were different tears. When was the last time someone had taken care of her like this, without wanting something in return, without making her feel weak for needing help? David had always made grand gestures that were really about him. Public proposals, expensive jewelry she didn't like, surprise parties that were more about his image than her preferences. This quiet kindness, this attention to what she actually needed, it undid her. She tried on the clothes, finding that Alexander had guessed her size almost perfectly. The cashmere felt like a hug against her skin. The dress made her feel human again, attractive even. She did her makeup carefully, styled her hair simply, and looked at herself in the mirror. Not a bride, not a jilted woman, just Maya. It was enough. The day passed in a blur of sleep and exploration. She walked through Notting Hill, bought groceries at Tesco like Alexander had suggested, found a cafe where she sat and wrote in a journal she'd bought. She didn't write about David or the wedding. She wrote about the view from the plane, about Alexander's sad smile, about Emma's paintings waiting patiently for someone to appreciate them again. At exactly 7, the doorbell rang. Alexander stood there in dark jeans and a navy sweater, looking younger and more relaxed than he had on the plane. "You look lovely," he said simply. "The clothes suit you." "Thank you for them." "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," he interrupted. It felt good to shop for someone again. I hope that doesn't sound strange. Nothing about any of this is normal, Maya pointed out. We might as well embrace the strangeness. He took her to a small Italian restaurant, tucked away on a side street. The owner greeted Alexander warmly, expressing delight at seeing him again after so long. They were seated at a corner table, candle-lit and intimate. Emma and I came here on our anniversary every year, Alexander explained. Giuseppe makes the best carbonara in London. Are you sure you want to be here? We can go somewhere else. No, he said firmly. I've been avoiding all our places. Maybe it's time to remember the good, instead of just mourning the loss. They ordered wine and food, falling into conversation as easily as they had on the plane. Maya told him about her day, about writing in the cafe, about feeling like a character in a novel. What kind of novel, he asked. I'm not sure yet. Maybe one about second chances, or unexpected kindness, or how the worst day of your life might lead to something beautiful. Does it? Lead to something beautiful? Maya met his eyes across the table. I think it might. They talked about books, about travel, about dreams deferred and paths not taken. Alexander told her about wanting to be a pianist as a child before his father convinced him that business was more practical. Maya admitted she'd always wanted to live abroad, but had been too scared to leave her comfort zone. And now here you are, Alexander pointed out, living abroad. For now, Maya said. I can't stay forever. I have a job, an apartment, a life in New York. Do you? Or do you have David's life that you were fitting yourself into? The question stung because it was true. So much of her life had been shaped around David's preferences, David's schedule, David's vision of their future. You're right, she admitted. I don't know what my life looks like anymore. It's terrifying and liberating at the same time. Emma used to say that feeling lost was just life's way of telling you it was time to explore new territory. She sounds wonderful. She was, Alexander said, and for the first time, his smile when talking about her wasn't tinged with pain. She would have liked you. She had a thing about brave women. I don't feel brave, I feel like I'm running away. Sometimes running away is the bravest thing you can do, staying in the wrong situation because it's safe, because it's expected. That's not courage, that's fear. After dinner, they walked through the city. Alexander showed her his favorite spots, a hidden garden, a bookshop that stayed open late, the bench where he'd proposed to Emma. Each place was a small gift of trust, a piece of his history shared. Can I ask you something? Maya said, as they walked along the Thames, the city lights reflecting in the water. Of course. Do you think you'll ever fall in love again? Alexander was quiet for a long time. I don't know, part of me died with Emma, but tonight, talking with you, sharing these places, it's the first time I've felt truly alive in 2 years. So maybe. Maybe the heart has infinite capacity to love and lose and love again. What about you? Ask me in a year, Maya said. Right now I'm just trying to remember who I am without someone else defining me. That's wise. Or cowardly. I can't tell the difference anymore. They ended up back at the flat, standing awkwardly at the door like teenagers after a first date. Which was absurd, Maya reminded herself. This wasn't a date. This was just two broken people keeping each other company. Thank you for tonight, she said, for showing me your London, for sharing your memories. Thank you for making new ones with me, Alexander replied. Maya, I know this is strange, but would you like to do this again? Tomorrow, maybe. There's an art exhibit at the Tate that Emma loved. I haven't been able to go alone, but with you. I'd be honored, Maya said, meaning it. He leaned in and kissed her cheek, a gentle brush of lips that somehow felt more intimate than anything she'd shared with David in months. Then he was gone, leaving Maya touching her cheek and wondering what exactly was happening here. The next few days fell into a pattern. Alexander would pick her up in the morning and they'd explore London together, museums, markets, parks, restaurants, always places that meant something to him, places he'd been avoiding since Emma's death. And slowly, Maya watched him come back to life. She was changing too. Without the constant pressure to be perfect, to fit into David's vision, she felt herself expanding, She wrote for hours in cafes, started sketching again, something she'd given up because David thought it was childish. Even took a dance class on a whim. She was discovering who Maya was when she wasn't trying to be someone's ideal wife. On her 5th night in London, Alexander cooked dinner at his house in Hampstead. It was the first time he'd invited anyone there since Emma died, he admitted. The house was beautiful but felt like a museum, too perfect, too preserved. "I keep thinking she'll walk through the door," he confessed as he poured wine. "Laugh at me for burning the sauce, fix it with some magic ingredient, make everything right again." "Maybe that's why you preserve everything," Maya suggested gently. "If nothing changes, maybe she's not really gone." "My therapist said the same thing. I fired him." "Of course you did," Maya laughed. "God forbid someone make you face your feelings," says the woman who flew across an ocean to avoid dealing with hers. Touché. They cooked together, dancing around each other in the kitchen with surprising ease. Alexander told her stories about Emma's cooking disasters, and Maya shared her own culinary failures. It was comfortable, domestic, in a way that should have felt wrong but didn't. After dinner, they sat on the couch with wine, looking through photo albums Alexander had finally felt ready to open. Emma came alive through the pictures, laughing, painting, traveling, living with an intensity that made her loss even more tragic. She was luminous, Maya said, studying a photo of Emma on their wedding day. "She was," Alexander agreed, "but so are you, in a different way. Emma was fire, bright and consuming. You're more like water, deep and adaptable and quietly powerful." Maya looked at him, startled by the comparison. "Alexander—" "I know," he said quickly. I'm not trying to replace her. No one could. But I need you to know that you're not just some distraction or a project. You're becoming important to me. Is that okay?" Maya set down her wineglass, choosing her words carefully. "I came here running from a failed relationship. You're grieving the love of your life. Neither of us is exactly emotionally available." "I know. But," she continued, "I feel more like myself with you than I have in years. And if that's all this is, friendship, connection, two people helping each other heal, then yes, it's okay. It's more than okay." Alexander took her hand, threading their fingers together. "I haven't felt hope in 2 years, but sitting here with you, I'm starting to remember what it feels like." They sat in comfortable silence, hands linked, both aware they were standing on the precipice of something neither was quite ready to name. The next morning, Maya woke to her phone ringing insistently. She'd been checking it sporadically, responding to her sister's worried texts, but ignoring everyone else. This time it was her boss from the hospital. "Maya, thank God," Dr. Patterson said. "I know you're dealing with a personal situation, but we have an emergency. The Chen twins, they've taken a turn. The parents are asking for you specifically. I know it's a lot to ask, but I'll be on the next flight," Maya said without hesitation. The Chen twins were born at 24 weeks, tiny fighters she'd been caring for since birth. Their parents trusted her, needed her. Whatever was happening in London, her patience came first. After she hung up, she sat on the bed, reality crashing back. She had a life in New York, responsibilities. She couldn't hide in London forever, playing at being someone new. She called Alexander. "I have to go back," she said without preamble. "Today. There's a medical emergency with 2 of my patients." "I'll drive you to the airport," he said immediately. "When's your flight?" "I haven't booked it yet." "I'll take care of it. Pack your things. I'll be there in 30 minutes. True to his word, he arrived exactly on time. Maya had packed quickly, leaving the wedding dress hanging in the closet. She couldn't face taking it back with her. Alexander was quiet on the drive, but she could feel the weight of unspoken words between them. At the private terminal, of course he'd booked his jet again, Alexander finally spoke. "This doesn't have to be goodbye." "Doesn't it?" Maya asked. "You have your life here. I have mine there. We were just a beautiful interlude. 2 people helping each other through dark times. Is that all this was to you?" Maya turned to face him fully. "You know it wasn't. But Alexander, we met 5 days ago. 5 days. You're still grieving Emma. I'm still processing being abandoned at the altar. Neither of us is ready for... whatever this could become. "You're right," he said, but his eyes said differently. "Will you at least let me know you arrived safely, and how your patients are?" Of course. He pulled her into a hug then, and Maya let herself melt into it. He smelled like expensive cologne and possibility, like safety and danger all at once. When they pulled apart, his eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Thank you," he said simply, "for bringing me back to life." "Thank you," she replied, "for showing me I could survive the worst day of mine." The flight back was lonely. Without Alexander's presence, the luxury of the jet felt hollow. Maya tried to sleep, but kept replaying the last 5 days. Had it really been less than a week? She felt like a different person than the bride who'd stood crying in JFK. She went straight from the airport to the hospital, not even stopping at home first. The Chen twins were indeed critical. One needed immediate surgery, the other was fighting an infection. Maya threw herself into work, grateful for the familiar rhythm of the NICU, the purpose it gave her. "You look different," her colleague Sarah noted during a brief break. "Did you do something with your hair?" "Something like that," Maya said vaguely. The twins stabilized after a harrowing 48 hours. Maya practically lived at the hospital, catching naps in the on-call room, surviving on cafeteria coffee. It was easier than going home to her apartment full of wedding gifts and memories of David. On her 3rd day back, she finally went home to shower and change. The apartment felt like a museum to someone else's life. The wedding gifts stacked in the corner, the save the dates still on the fridge, the engagement photos on the mantel, all of it belonged to a Maya who no longer existed. She was packing everything into boxes when her doorbell rang. Her sister stood there with Chinese takeout and a determined expression. "Enough," Carmen said, pushing past Maya. "You've been back for 3 days and you've told me nothing. Spill." So Maya told her everything. About Alexander, about London, about discovering who she was without David. Carmen listened without interrupting, occasionally refilling their wine glasses. "Holy shit," she said when Maya finished. "You ran away with a billionaire." "I didn't run away with him. I just ran away. He happened to be there. And now I'm here, and he's there, and life goes on." "Maya," Carmen's voice was gentle, "you're glowing. Even with everything that happened, you're more alive than I've seen you in years. Don't you think that means something?" "It means I needed to get away, to perspective. But Carmen, I can't build a life on 5 days in London. That's not how reality works." "Says who? Mom and Dad met at a bus stop and were married 6 months later, 35 years and counting." "That was different." "How?" Maya didn't have an answer for that. She threw herself back into work, trying to recapture the clarity she'd found in London. But New York felt different now. Smaller somehow. She'd catch herself thinking about Alexander at odd moments, wondering if he'd gone back to the Italian restaurant, if he was painting in Emma's studio, if he was okay. He texted occasionally. Nothing pressing, just small updates. A photo of the sunrise from his office. A new piece at the Tate he thought she'd like. The roses blooming in the hidden garden he'd shown her. She responded in kind. A particularly beautiful baby at work. The coffee shop that had gotten her order wrong 3 days running. The way Central Park looked in the morning mist. 2 weeks after her return, David showed up at the hospital. "We need to talk," he said, looking haggard. "Please, Maya, just give me 10 minutes." Against her better judgment, she agreed. They sat in the hospital cafeteria, Maya in her scrubs, David in his expensive suit, looking utterly out of place. "I made a mistake," he began. "The biggest mistake of my life. Melissa means nothing. It was just cold feet, just—" "Stop," Maya interrupted. "Just stop. You didn't have cold feet, David. You had a full-on affair. You were texting another woman while I was putting on my wedding dress. That's not a mistake, that's a choice. But I choose you now. I want to work it out. We can go to counseling, take things slow." "No." The word came out firm, certain. "I don't want to work it out. I don't want you back." David looked shocked. But you loved me. We were getting married." "I loved who I thought you were. But more than that, I loved who I thought I was with you. Turns out, I like who I am, without you better. Is there someone else?" His voice turned suspicious. "Is that why you disappeared? You found someone else?" Maya thought about Alexander, about 5 days that had changed everything and nothing. "There's me," she said finally. "I found me, and that's enough." She left David sitting in the cafeteria and went back to work, feeling lighter than she had since returning. That night, she texted Alexander. "Saw David today. Told him no. Felt good." His response came quickly. "Proud of you. You deserve someone who chooses you every day, not just when it's convenient." "How are you?" she typed back. "Better. Painted for the first time yesterday. Terrible abstract thing, but Emma would have laughed. Felt good to create again." They fell into a rhythm of longer conversations after that. Phone calls that stretched late into the night, video chats over morning coffee, her morning, his afternoon. They talked about everything and nothing, work triumphs and frustrations, books they were reading, places they wanted to travel. "I miss you," Alexander admitted one night, 6 weeks after she'd left. "Is that allowed?" "I miss you too," Maya said softly, "but I'm still not ready for more. I need to know who I am on my own first." "I understand. I'm not ready either. But someday? Maybe someday." 3 months passed. Maya redecorated her apartment, purging all traces of her life with David. She submitted her novel to agents, started rock climbing with a colleague, adopted a cat she named London. She was building a life that was entirely hers. Alexander was healing too. He sent her photos of Emma's studio, now also containing his own canvases. He'd started therapy again, with a different therapist. He was working less, living more, learning to carry his grief without drowning in it. They were friends, deep, meaningful friends, who talked almost every day, who knew each other's schedules and moods and dreams, who offered support without expectation, connection without pressure. Then, 6 months after that night at JFK, everything changed again. Maya was at work when the call came. Alexander had been in an accident, a car crash on the M25. He was alive but critical. Her name was listed as an emergency contact. She didn't remember booking the flight or packing a bag. She just knew she had to get to London, had to be there. The flight was agony, every minute stretching endlessly. She couldn't lose him. Not when they'd found each other against all odds, not when there was still so much unsaid between them. She rushed straight to the hospital from Heathrow, her heart pounding. The nurse at the desk directed her to the ICU, where she found Alexander unconscious, machines beeping around him. His face was bruised, his left arm in a cast, but he was breathing on his own. "Are you family?" the doctor asked. Maya paused. What was she? "I'm his person." The doctor accepted this. "He's been asking for you. In and out of consciousness, but your name is the one he keeps saying. Maya." She took his good hand, careful of the IV. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm here, Alexander. You're going to be okay." His eyes fluttered open, focusing slowly on her face. "Maya." His voice was rough, confused. "But you're in New York." "Not anymore," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I'm right here." "Don't cry," he mumbled. "Hate when you cry." "Then stop scaring me," she said, laughing through her tears. He squeezed her hand weakly. "Missed you. Every day. I missed you too." "Life's too short," he said, his words slurring as medication pulled him under again. "Emma taught me that. Don't want to waste any more time." Maya stayed by his side as he drifted back to sleep. She called the hospital in New York, arranged for emergency leave. She wasn't going anywhere until she knew he was okay. Over the next few days, Alexander improved steadily. The accident hadn't been as bad as initially feared. A concussion, broken ribs, the fractured arm. He'd be fine with time and rest. Maya haunted the hospital, reading to him, talking to him even when he was sleeping, holding his hand like an anchor. "You came," he said one afternoon, finally fully lucid. "Of course I came. You're my person too." "Am I?" He studied her face. "Even after 6 months apart?" "Especially after 6 months apart," Maya said. I needed that time to figure out who I was, what I wanted, to heal from David, to build my own life. But Alexander, every single day I wanted to share something with you. Every sunset, every breakthrough at work, every moment of joy or sadness. You're the one I wanted to tell. What are you saying? Maya took a deep breath. I'm saying that I love you. Not because you rescued me that night at the airport. Not because you showed me London. Not because you understood my pain. I love you because you're brilliant and kind and broken and healing. Because you make me laugh and think and feel. Because life is too short to pretend otherwise. Alexander's eyes filled with tears. I love you too. I think I have since that first night on the plane. But I was so scared of betraying Emma's memory, of not being enough for you, of losing someone again. I can't promise we won't lose each other someday, Maya said honestly, but I can promise to choose you every day until then, to build something real and lasting, even knowing it could end. Because you taught me that the pain of loss proves the love was worth it. Come here, Alexander said, tugging weakly at her hand. She leaned down and he kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise. It was nothing like the passionate kisses with David, all heat and no substance. This was deeper, truer. Two souls recognizing each other across all the pain and distance. So what happens now? Alexander asked when they broke apart. Now you heal, Maya said firmly. And we figure it out. My job, your company, London, New York. None of that matters as much as this. Us. We'll find a way. I could expand to New York, he offered. Or you could work here. Royal London Hospital has been trying to poach you for years. They have. I may have done some research, he admitted with a sheepish grin. I wanted to know all your options, in case you ever decided to come back. We have time to figure it out, Maya said. Right now, just focus on getting better. I'm not going anywhere. And she didn't. She stayed through his recovery, working remotely with her team in New York, spending her days at his bedside and her nights in the Notting Hill flat that now felt like home. They talked for hours, about Emma, about David, about their fears and dreams, and the future they were tentatively planning together. I need you to know, Alexander said one evening, as they watched the sunset from his hospital window, that I'll always love Emma. She'll always be part of me. I know, Maya said simply. And that's okay. Love isn't finite. The heart expands. Your love for Emma doesn't diminish what we have. If anything, it shows me your capacity for deep, lasting love. That's not a threat. It's a gift. How did you become so wise? I had a good teacher, she said, kissing his forehead. This broken billionaire who showed me that kindness matters more than safety. That connection can happen in the most unexpected moments, that running away sometimes means running toward. 2 weeks later, Alexander was released from the hospital. Maya drove him home, both of them quiet with the weight of the moment. She'd extended her leave, but decisions needed to be made. Real life was calling. That night, as they sat in his garden watching the stars, Alexander spoke. Move here, or let me move there, or we'll split time between both cities. I don't care about the logistics, I just can't do this distance anymore. Life's too precious, too uncertain. I want to wake up with you, argue about coffee strength, paint terrible paintings while you write beautiful words. I want ordinary Tuesday mornings and spectacular Sunday nights. I want it all, Maya. With you. That's not a very romantic proposal, Maya teased, her heart racing. I'm not proposing, Alexander said seriously. Not yet. We both know you need more time before taking that step again. But I am asking you to take a leap with me, to choose us, despite the complications and the distance, and the fact that we met in the strangest possible way. Maya thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago, standing in an airport in a wedding dress, her life in ruins. That woman never could have imagined this moment, sitting in a London garden with a man who'd seen her at her worst and helped her find her best. Yes, she said simply, yes to all of it, to the complications and the ordinary mornings and the terrible paintings, to building something real, even if it's messy and imperfect and absolutely insane. It is insane, Alexander agreed, pulling her close. A jilted bride and a grieving billionaire walk into an airport. Sounds like the beginning of a bad joke, or a beautiful love story. Maybe both, Maya said, resting her head on his shoulder. The best stories usually are. 1 year later, Maya stood in the same Notting Hill flat, but everything had changed. The walls now held a mixture of Emma's paintings and Alexander's newer works. Her desk sat by the window, where she wrote in the mornings before her shifts at Royal London Hospital. London the cat had adapted to British life with typical feline indifference. She was putting the finishing touches on her outfit. Not a wedding dress this time, but a simple blue sundress, perfect for a garden party. Today was the launch of the Emma Winters Foundation, supporting art therapy for grieving children. It had been Alexander's idea, a way to honor Emma's memory while helping others heal. Ready? Alexander appeared in the doorway, looking handsome in his navy suit. Almost. Maya pinned a small silver bird to her dress, a gift from Alexander on their 6-month anniversary. How are you feeling? Good, he said, and meant it. Emma would have loved this, using art to help kids process loss. It's perfect. They'd both come so far from that night at JFK. Alexander still grieved Emma, but it was a gentler grief now, woven into the fabric of his life rather than consuming it. Maya had published her novel, a story about second chances and unexpected love that readers seemed to connect with deeply. They'd found a rhythm together, splitting time between London and New York, building a life that honored their pasts while embracing their future. I love you, Maya said, straightening his tie. Thank you for being brave enough to love again. Thank you for showing me it was possible, he replied, kissing her softly. Now, come on. We have a foundation to launch. The garden party was held at their Hampstead home, the space transformed with fairy lights and flowers. Artists, therapists, potential donors and friends mingled on the lawn. Maya spotted her sister, Carmen, chatting with Alexander's business partner, her parents admiring Emma's paintings that were displayed throughout the garden. Maya! A familiar voice called out. She turned to see the Chen twins' parents, the babies now healthy toddlers playing at their feet. You came! Maya exclaimed, hugging them warmly. We wouldn't miss it, Mrs. Chen said. After everything you did for our boys, supporting your foundation is the least we can do. As the afternoon progressed, Maya found herself standing apart for a moment, observing the life she and Alexander had built. It wasn't what she'd planned that morning at JFK. It was infinitely better, messier, more complicated, but real in a way her life with David had never been. Penny, for your thoughts. Alexander appeared at her elbow with a glass of champagne. Just thinking about how strange life is. If David hadn't left me, if you hadn't been at that airport, if you hadn't offered a complete stranger a ride on your jet. If Emma hadn't died, Alexander added quietly. If I hadn't been running from my grief. If you hadn't been brave enough to say yes to an insane offer. We might never have found each other. Or maybe we would have, Alexander suggested. Maybe some connections are inevitable. Maybe we would have met at a medical conference or a charity gala, or in that little Italian restaurant. Maybe souls that fit find a way. That's very romantic for someone who claims to be practical, Maya teased. You've corrupted me with your optimism, he said, pulling her close. Speaking of which, there's something I want to show you. He led her to Emma's old studio at the back of the garden, now renovated into a proper art therapy space for the foundation. But in the corner, covered by a sheet, stood an easel. I finished it, Alexander said quietly, pulling off the sheet. It was the landscape Emma had started, the one that had been sitting unfinished for over 3 years. But Alexander had completed it in his own style, creating something that was both Emma's and his own, a perfect blend of past and present. It's beautiful, Maya breathed. She would be so proud. Of the painting. Of you, of this, of everything you've become. Alexander set down his champagne and took both her hands. Maya, I need to say something. And the timing feels right here, in this space, where endings and beginnings meet. Maya's heart began to race. "Alexander, I'm not proposing," he said quickly, seeing her expression. "I know you need more time for that, but I am promising to love you through whatever comes, promising to choose you every day even when it's hard, promising to build a life with you that honors where we've been while embracing where we're going." "I promise too," Maya said, tears streaming down her face, "to love you and your ghosts, to be patient with your grief and share my joy, to write our story one day at a time without needing to know the ending." They kissed there in the studio, surrounded by art and memory and possibility. Outside, they could hear the party continuing, the laughter of children who would find healing through art, the chatter of people celebrating love persisting despite loss. Later, as the sun set over London, Maya found herself back where it all began, at an airport. Not running this time, but seeing Carmen off after her visit. "I'm proud of you," her sister said, hugging her tight, "for choosing happiness, even when it looked nothing like you expected." "It's scary sometimes," Maya admitted, "loving someone who's already lost everything once, knowing how fragile it all is." "That's what makes it brave," Carmen said, "and beautiful. You're not loving despite the risk, you're loving because of it. Because you both know how precious it is." As Maya drove home through the London streets, she now knew by heart. She thought about the woman in the wedding dress who'd stood crying in JFK. That woman had thought her life was over. She'd had no idea it was just beginning. Back at the house, she found Alexander in the kitchen, making tea and reviewing foundation applications. "Good day?" he asked, looking up with that smile that still made her heart skip. "The best," she said, settling beside him. "What are you reading?" "Application from a girl in Manchester. Lost her mum to cancer. Wants to use art to help other kids going through the same thing." "Approve it," Maya said without hesitation. "Those are the stories that matter." "All stories matter," Alexander corrected gently. "Even the ones that start with runaway brides and broken billionaires." "Especially those," Maya agreed, stealing his tea. "They're the ones that prove love isn't about perfect timing or ideal circumstances. It's about two people choosing to heal together, to build something beautiful from the broken pieces." "Is that going in your next novel?" "Maybe," Maya said with a grin. "But I'll change the names, make the billionaire a duke or something. More romantic." "I'm plenty romantic," Alexander protested. "You are," Maya agreed, kissing him soundly. "My perfectly imperfect, beautifully broken, wonderfully romantic billionaire who saved me by letting me save him." "We saved each other," Alexander corrected. "That's the best kind of love story." As they sat together in their kitchen, planning foundation events and discussing Maya's next book, the ordinary evening felt extraordinary, because they both knew how rare this was, this second chance at love, this life built on the ashes of loss, this joy that existed not despite the pain but because they'd learned to transform it. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from a colleague in New York. "Saw David at a conference. He's engaged again. Hope you're well." She showed it to Alexander, who raised an eyebrow. "How do you feel about that?" "Grateful," Maya said honestly. "If he hadn't left me at that airport, I'd never have found you, never have found myself. I hope he's happy, truly. Everyone deserves a chance to get it right. Even runaway grooms? Even them, though I doubt his story will be as good as ours." "No one's is," Alexander said with characteristic confidence. "We've got billionaire private jets, international romance, near-death experiences, and a cat named London. We're basically a Netflix series." "Don't forget the wedding dress," Maya added. "Can't have a proper romance without a wedding dress." "About that," Alexander said carefully, "I know you left yours in the Notting Hill flat, but someday when you're ready—" "Someday," Maya agreed, "but not yet. Right now this is enough, more than enough. It's everything." They spent the rest of the evening as they did most evenings, together, comfortable, building their life one ordinary moment at a time. The fairy tale had evolved into something better, a real story, with real love, between two people who'd learned that happily ever after wasn't a destination but a daily choice. And somewhere in a closet in Notting Hill, a wedding dress hung unworn, a reminder that sometimes the best things come from plans that fall apart. That rejection can be redirection, that a lonely billionaire and a jilted bride might just be the perfect match, not despite their broken pieces, but because of them. Love, Maya had learned, wasn't about finding someone perfect. It was about finding someone whose imperfections fit with yours, who made you brave enough to risk the pain for the joy, who showed you that endings could be beginnings in disguise. As she fell asleep that night, Alexander's arm around her, London the cat purring at their feet, Maya smiled. Tomorrow she'd wake up to British rain and hospital shifts and the beautiful chaos of a life she'd never planned. But tonight, she was exactly where she belonged, in the arms of a man who'd offered a stranger kindness and ended up offering his heart. The jilted bride and the lonely billionaire. It sounded like a fairy tale, but it was better than that. It was real. And it was theirs. Thank you so much for joining me on Maya and Alexander's incredible journey. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another emotional story about love, loss, and second chances. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever taken a crazy leap of faith that changed your life? Share your story in the comments below. Remember, sometimes the best things come from the plans that fall apart. Until next time, keep believing in unexpected love and the power of new beginnings.